Viewer, there are troubling reports of a third accident involving India's beloved homegrown Tejas fighter. We are told the accident took place about 2 weeks ago at the frontline Nalia Air Base in Gujarat, and this was no ordinary incident. According to multiple reports over the last 48 hours, the aircraft, the Tejas, was damaged so severely during either takeoff or landing, or some kind of a landing or ground incident, it has meant a total loss of the aircraft, meaning it is beyond repair. That's what the reports tell us. It is gone. Even more concerning, the same reports suggest that the entire Tejas fleet of over 30 aircraft have been grounded as a safety and a maintenance inspection precaution, which effectively means that 30 plus aircraft are now grounded. 2 weeks later, there is still no clarity on whether that grounding happened immediately, but we know now that that grounding continues 2 weeks after the accident happened. Now, here is what makes this situation just a little unusual. The Indian Air Force normally issues public statements after accidents or major incidents involving aircraft damage. This time there's been conspicuous silence, not even a response after the incident became public this week. And there may be a reason why. Tellingly, the Indian Air Force has also not denied the reports that this accident took place. Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, or HAL, the manufacturer of the Tejas, did issue a statement today, presumably because its publicly listed shares took a bit of a tumble in the wake of this story. It described the episode, surprisingly, as a minor technical incident and not a crash. But it carefully avoided two key questions. A, is this aircraft damaged beyond repair? And was the fleet grounded? Now, I can confirm to you here on India Matters tonight that since the accident took place 2 weeks ago, the Tejas fleet remains grounded. And the reason for this, my sources in the Indian Air Force have told me, is a safety and a maintenance inspection that seeks to go to the root cause of why this mysterious accident took place. Now, let us be absolutely clear. Aircraft accidents do happen. Military aviation is inherently risky. And as a defense correspondent, I have reported many such incidents. They are not uncommon. In this particular accident, the pilot is said to have escaped without any serious injury, which is ultimately what matters. And that is also precisely why the absence of basic information this time is puzzling. Both the previous Tejas accidents, as you can see in these pictures, happened in full view of cameras. One near Jaisalmer in 2024 during a combat exercise, and the second last year, you remember it, horrifyingly caught on camera at the Dubai Air Show. The third incident that happened this month happened at an airbase, no cameras, but also conspicuous silence. Now, some of my sources point to Operation Sindoor still technically being underway as a possible reason for the Air Force's decision not to officially comment on this incident. But it is difficult to see why an operational deployment should prevent transparency about what appears to be a routine incident, especially one where a pilot has reportedly been injured and thankfully only some minor injuries have been sustained. The vacuum of information has had consequences which have to be acknowledged. Pakistan's information warfare networks, which have been in hyperdrive after that country was pulverized during Operation Sindoor, they've jumped in, pushing exaggerated claims and propaganda about the Tejas program, unfairly targeting a fighter that actually has one of the best safety records in the world and flown by the finest fighter pilots in the world. Tonight, I speak not just as a journalist who covered Operation Sindoor from the front lines, but as someone who has flown in a Tejas, had that privilege, and knows many pilots who actually fly this beloved and beautifully safe aircraft. The Tejas community deserves clarity. The public deserves clarity. What happened? Was the fleet grounded immediately? And what lessons have been learned? With full acknowledgement of the Indian Air Force's professionalism and choices, those are answers that need to come right now. Now I'm going to show you what we know and what we don't know so far as this accident is concerned. And the reason, viewer, why I'm dwelling on this accident is because when there is an accident where an aircraft is damaged beyond repair, There is always supposed to be transparency. This time, suspiciously, there isn't. Number one, what we know, this was an Indian Air Force Tejas fighter that met with an accident on the 7th of February. What we don't know is whether the Tejas was damaged beyond repair, because HAL in its statement says it was a minor technical incident. But we are hearing from reports that the aircraft is a write-off. It's been completely damaged. What we know, grounding of the Tejas fleet has happened. I can confirm that here on NDTV. What we don't know is whether the grounding continues 2 weeks later. And right now, just before we began this broadcast, I got a confirmation of that as well. So that becomes a fact that we know. What we know, the Tejas pilot was injured in this accident. What we don't know, the nature of the injuries or how he actually got out of the aircraft. He didn't eject. That we can also confirm now. What we know, the HAL statement says it was a minor technical incident. What we don't know, the official Indian Air Force version of events. My sources in the Indian Air Force have told me that a safety stand down of the fleet has been effected for maintenance inspections in order to get to the root cause of why this February 7th accident actually took place, in which this aircraft was damaged. Now, another set of data points I want you to think about before I go to my experts tonight. Why does a Tejas accident raise eyebrows? Why is it such a big deal? It's military aviation. Accidents do happen, right? Well, the silence around the accident is what has led to speculation and all kinds of theories. Number one, this is an aircraft that has an incredible, an excellent safety record among fighters, and that's the reason why any accident has a disproportionate response. Number two, the Indian Air Force has bet very big on the Tejas in terms of numbers. 30 plus aircraft already in service, 180 on order, which means a fleet order of about 220 aircraft in total, which is an enormous number. Number three, Indian Air Force and Hindustan Aeronautics Limited have over the years experienced some friction, which is not uncommon, over delays in the delivery of Tejas aircraft, particularly now with the Tejas Mark 1A, which is an improved version of the Tejas, 180 of which are on order. Deliveries were supposed to begin about a year and a half ago. Not a single one has been delivered. So there is bad blood as far as that is concerned. Number four, in the shadow of industry versus HAL proxy wars that are currently being fought, Hindustan Aeronautics Limited is a large state-owned corporation that is perceived to be sidelined from certain future combat aircraft programs. So does this have something to do with that? And finally, HAL has issued a statement, but the Indian Air Force has not issued a statement. What does that actually mean? The maker has issued a statement, but the operator, the user of the aircraft, has nothing to say officially. It's given Pakistan the chance and the opportunity to indulge in psychological operations and information warfare to defame and dent the Tejas' image. Let's get some clarity tonight. I've laid the groundwork of what we know and what we don't know. A routine accident, or is there something more to it? Let's go straight to our guest tonight. Very honored to be joined by R. Madhavan, former chairman and managing director of Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, and Air Marshal Anil Chopra, who is a veteran fighter pilot. He has done a lot of work with HAL. He's a test pilot himself. He's been a former Director General of the Center for Air Power Studies and looks very closely at safety aspects within the Air Force. Gentlemen, thank you very much, Mr. Madhavan. I want to come straight to you first because the reason why this story actually became known was through some media reports suggesting a serious accident has happened, an aircraft has been written off completely. HAL has come out with a statement saying that it's a minor technical accident, but we can confirm now that a fleet-wide grounding has been put in place for 2 weeks and counting, sir, in order to get to the root cause. Can you comment on this, Mr. Madhavan?
Yeah, the thing is that if suppose the pilots, from what we know, the pilot has ejected, the damage is definitely going to be quite high.
So can I just correct you on that one point, Mr. Madhavan? The pilot didn't eject. The pilot, we are fortunately enough, was able to get out of the aircraft. The aircraft was on its takeoff run when something went wrong, possibly with the brakes, and the pilot, the aircraft perhaps went off the runway. The pilot used the emergency canopy release and got out of the aircraft, and in that process perhaps was somewhat injured. So no ejection, hence the possibility of getting the plane back in order is something we can't yet rule out. though I am told that perhaps, they need to look very closely at the extent of the damage.
Yeah, that is true because in such cases, it's quite possible to recover the aircraft, provided it has not gone and hit somewhere else, and the damages are very much that is not possible to be recovered. That's what we call it as a catty accident. Otherwise, this thing is something which is strange because this aircraft has been flying for quite some time with thousands of takeoffs and landings being done. So probably it could be a maintenance issues because as far as the design is concerned, this is a proven one. And it has been doing sorties like this for quite some time. We should have got this information, probably should have been given to at least to HL before. And it's quite strange that this whole thing has not come out for the last 2 weeks. And now we are saying that, okay, this happened, and then we have to see what is going to be there. Generally, in such cases, whether it's an accident or an incident, we do have a court of inquiry, and the court of inquiry should have been constituted within a very short period after the incident has happened, which in this case has not happened because HL has not been informed about the court of inquiry, or for that matter, even the ADA or the DRDO has not been informed. That's a bit strange on their part not to do this. But Indian Air Force definitely would be having some reasons for not doing it so. But in case they have a court of inquiry, we will be able to find out what is the real cause of this accident.
Vishnu, what have you been able to learn about this? This is a peculiar situation. HAL in its statement says that they got to know about this accident from the media reports and not from the Indian Air Force itself. But all of the reporting that has been done so far around it suggests that this was not a minor technical incident. It was a fairly substantial incident or an accident in which substantive damage has been sustained by the aircraft. It may be written off. We don't know that categorically yet. But what are you making of this? Because it is unusual, Vishnu, from any angle, for a type like the Tejas or any type to be grounded for a safety or maintenance inspection for 2 weeks and counting.
So, the use of the word grounded is being disputed in some quarters. I think you are very right in using that word, because if the fleet isn't operating at the normal standards, because they're going through an evaluation of various systems to see what this is all about, root cause analysis, then the word grounded is all right. However, in speaking to my sources in the Air Force, they are not using that word. I got off the phone just moments before we came on. I went on air with you, and they are saying that they're just doing some systemic checks of this particular situation, but they aren't really talking about what the problem is. All that I do know from other sources is that the aircraft may have been on its takeoff run when something went wrong, and the pilot wasn't able to bring the aircraft to a halt. It could have veered off the runway. There was no ejection which took place. Remember, the Tejas does have a 0-0 ejection seat, which means it can eject the pilot at 0 altitude and at 0 speed. That didn't take place. The pilot was able to jettison the canopy, and then you're able to do that very quickly, and you're trained to get out of the aircraft as soon as possible. In that process, he sustained some injuries, but I'm told that these are not extremely bad. However, to the larger question of the extent of the damage, what I can say is that the Indian Air Force is now working with HAL, and I think they're going to have to look at things like costs. They're going to have to look at the extent of the damage and whether it's feasible at all to rebuild the aircraft, assuming that it's been damaged quite severely, or to write it off completely.
Marshal Chopra, what is your reading of what may have happened here? There are many peculiarities to this timeline, including what Mr. Madhavan referred to, that it is odd that HAL has not been informed about it. What do you think is going on here, sir?
Yeah, Shiv, firstly, I must say, yes, not enough information is coming. What Vishnu Shom has said is what I also believe is the closest to the truth that we outsiders can understand at this moment. Understand that some kind of a brake problem seems to have happened. That's what everybody is talking. But till somebody comes out with more details, it's difficult to say. If you have aborted a takeoff, which is the worst condition, you've got the maximum fuel, you are at a high speed, and then you sit on the brakes, and the brakes are designed to sustain that kind of energy that will get generated because of the heat that will take place while braking. But if that has happened, I'm not very sure. To say Mr. Madhavan is saying that HAL was not kept in the loop, I don't agree. The Air Force and HAL work very, very closely in Air Force bases where LCAs are there. The HAL reps are physically sitting over there because we are still in the beginning. We have got only 38 aircraft which have been delivered. If it is a hull loss, which is a total write-off of the aircraft, it will be very sad. That will be the third hull loss out of the 38 aircraft that have been delivered till now in 2001 to 2026. That's a 25-year period in which we have had. But whatever be the final position, I think it must come out in public domain quickly because, as you said rightly, the foreign handles are taking advantage of this. And, it brings bad publicity to the aircraft, which is a flagship program for us. LCA has to succeed because then only the Mark II and the AMCA will succeed. And you all know, as Shiv, you said rightly, 180 have been ordered. Mark 1As are running behind schedule by at least around 2 years. The latest figures are that they will come to join the Air Force only.
Marshal Chopra, just one follow-up question. Is it odd for the Tejas fleet to be on the ground undergoing a safety inspection for a fortnight? Is that unusual or is that normal?
No, firstly, I must tell you, it's very common in the Air Force. We have had a helicopter fleet, ALH helicopter fleet grounded or sort of been on the ground for nearly 3 to 4 months.
Yeah,
so this kind of
longer actually
happen because it's important to reach the ground zero as to what exactly happened. So I'm not so worried about whether it will take 2 weeks or 3 weeks.
I'm glad you clarified that. Yeah.
So I think being grounded for a little extra time doesn't matter. It's a fledgling aircraft which is still evolving, and we must get to the root of the problem. We don't want to have another catastrophe, another problem.
Correct. Yeah. Mr. Madhavan, HAL is embedded with the Air Force at all bases where this aircraft operates. So I'm just wondering if you can clarify on that HAL wasn't aware of this incident when it actually happened 2 weeks ago. Air Marshal Chopra contends that that's not possible. HAL must have known that this took place, sir.
Yeah, I also feel that they should have known that. But officially they have said that they are not aware of it. Because as Air Marshal has said that our people are there at almost all the bases. And it's very unlikely that this story wouldn't have at least spread around in the base itself. And if it has spread in the base, it will be definitely known to the HAL representatives who are sitting there. Whether it is escalated up to the management of HAL or for that matter to the air headquarters I don't really know what has really happened. This is that way quite strange. And as far as the last also question was concerned, the grounding of the aircraft is in abundance this one that you need to find out before you take up a next flight.
Correct.
So that we don't repeat the same mistake. And I agree that there should be this one, and they should take the time that is really necessary to find out the root cause of this problem and then go for it.
Yeah.
Whether it was actually a technical error or something else, that has to be really found out, and then that has to be rectified before the next flight happens. So I expect that this should continue, and 2 weeks is nothing so big a time period for doing it.
I'm glad the both of you have said that, because one of the propagandas that we are hearing, Mr. Madhavan and Air Marshal Chopra, about this safety inspection grounding is that there is something seriously wrong with the aircraft. And that is the reason why I brought both of you onto this show, to bust that very, very serious myth. This is abundance of caution. It's an aircraft that, has just gotten into operational service a few years ago. Vishnu, what happens next now? The purpose of this show, it's an unusual choice for a lead story in prime time, but it's an important one because the Tejas is an aircraft that has a stellar safety record compared to many other fighters. It's a beloved fighter. You and I have had the privilege of sitting in a Tejas and flying in one as well, Vishnu. So that makes it even more necessary, perhaps, for there to be a level of transparency about what really happened. There is a huge national, investment in the Tejas.
No, 100%. There is a national investment in the Tejas. It is India's, made in India fighter. and it has had a stellar service record. Remember, it's been it flew for the first time in 2001. That, of course, was the prototype. It did take some time to get into squadron service, but the number of times we've lost these aircraft, it's just two. The first one was an engine flame out. It was an engine failure. The second one appears to have been a pilot error at the Dubai Air Show. And this third one, I think, is the most mysterious of the three, because it does appear to have involved some sort of system, whether it's the brakes of the aircraft or the brake computer or something along the lines. While the aircraft, as I understand it, was on its takeoff run, it was unable to stop. It veered off the runway. Fortunately, the pilot got out. But it has a stellar record, and so I personally believe that this is not going to be something that's going to result in an extended grounding. I believe this could be a component failure. It's something that will be looked at, and this plane is going to be back flying as soon as possible.
And Abhishek Chopra, do you agree with that? That this is, safety is paramount? You have operated and you've commanded frontline bases, sir. You've also, led the entire safety division of the Indian Air Force. So you know what it's like being in the hot seat of this. No chances can be taken.
Absolutely, Shiv. Undoubtedly, no chances can be taken. Fighter flying is a serious business. It is combat. There is very little, margin that is there. We have seen in the aircraft that crashed during the Dubai Air Show. You're always at the limits. And takeoff, if it is true that it has happened at takeoff, which Vishnu is saying, which is most probably, then that is a critical phase of flight. And there is if something goes wrong at unstick, we all know about the Air India crash that has took place last year. That's a very, very critical phase of flight. I believe the pilot has jumped out of the aircraft. Some people are reporting that perhaps the aircraft had caught fire. What is the extent of fire? Well, was it from the burning brakes or some other reasons? We do not know yet.
Yeah.
But surely flight safety is paramount. And, we need to live another day. We need aeroplanes. We need pilots so that, we are back into action. But I also want to mention that, yes, HAL is under pressure at this moment. 1As are behind schedule. 1As will come only in another 4-5 months. Yes. Only 5 GE404 engines have come till now. The remaining are trickling in. The HAL chairman said today that nearly 9 or 12 aircraft airframes are ready. But we also know now it's in the open domain that there are some integration issues which are still pending, and we hope that those integration issues, I believe they are related to something to do with radar, the electronic warfare system. Yes. Some integration is still pending. I hope that happens very, very quickly. Indian Air Force desperately needs, fighter aircraft. We are down, not only down, we are forced to take large number of foreign fighters. Now 114 Rafales, we will have to go for it because the gap has to be built. So we are really concerned about LCA, and I'm very happy that you are bringing this at the prime time, important subject like this.
No, absolutely. I'll give the last word to Mr. Madhavan then. Mr. Madhavan, HAL is a big company, has been a very, very credible company, continues to be. Obviously, some frictions and pressures in terms of delays as far as the improved version of the Tejas 180, which are on order right now. I just want you to speak to us about what kind of relationship HAL and the Indian Air Force have at this point of time. It's a high pressure situation, post Operation Sindoor. There is even greater pressure on HAL to deliver assets on time. Tell us about that, sir.
Between HAL and Air Force, the relationship traditionally had been good, but with sometimes a little bit of ups and downs here and there. And I also agree with that fact that the delivery of LCA is very critical for the Air Force. So when the Air Force says that they are very unhappy about the delivery schedule of HAL, I can agree with their requirements, because the fleet sizes are coming down, as well as the fleet that is operational now are also a bit long on the teeth, in the sense that Jaguars are also getting older, as well as Su-30 is also quite old. So it makes sense that we should make up the squadrons as early as possible. On HAL's part, there is reasons for delays, yes, like engines not coming. and the latest one being the integration of the radar as well as the EW suites. That is more or less, as I understand from them, is behind them. The tests have been completed and waiting for the certifications to happen on that. So probably within a couple of months, we should see that the deliveries start happening. But the numbers is what is more important.
Yes.
The numbers of 24 to 30, even 30 is possible with the 3 lines that they have got. And with the vendor base improving their supplies, I think 30 is a possibility that can be looked at. If not 30, at least 24.
Yes.
That is not negotiable anymore, because it should not be later than this, because we are already late because of the engine issues. And as far as we understand, that see, even the G's commitment was that after November, every month we'll give. That really didn't happen. With 5 engines the whole year, and that to 2 years delayed. It was supposed to come in 2024, which has not yet. Even in 2026, we are still stuck with only 5 engines. So it is a problem across board with so many things happening. So I think we should, as a country, we should ensure that we gear up for this. And especially we should say that HAL also should gear up for this upcoming, in case they get the 16 engines that G is promised next year, then 16 aircrafts at least should come out of.
No, we wish HAL nothing but the best. I hope that the Tejas is fully cleared, to get back into the air very quickly. In fact, I have reason to believe that there may be good news ahead, because the Vayu Shakti air power demonstration, which is scheduled for 3-4 days from now, I am told by my sources that it's very, very likely you'll see the Tejas flying there during that firepower demonstration, which is excellent news for everyone. Beautiful aircraft, something to be very, very proud of. The Indian Air Force always extremely professional about it, and we want nothing but the best for our pilots and for our ground forces on this. Thank you very much to Air Marshal Chopra, Mr. Madhavan and Vishnu for joining me on this story.